Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks very much, Julie, and thank you very much to the Big Idea team for organising this event and for the opportunity to come and speak. I'm going to share with you some of the things that don't go right. Here you are, and congratulations to the 4 candidates and presentations earlier. Good luck with the final decision. My background has been medical technologies for the last 25 odd years. I've spent most of my time in the world of gastroenterology, technologies that is. They wouldn't let me do a procedure on someone because I'm not medically trained. I'm actually a photographer by trade, which makes me really, really lost. I literally went from photographing a wedding on a Sunday afternoon in Melbourne to then Monday morning standing next to Professor Campbell Penfold, a colorectal surgeon at the Epworth Private Hospital in Melbourne, watching him do a colonoscopy. And he actually handed over the scope, or pointed it towards me, had me look down the eyepiece of the instrument, and he said to me, "Can you see that polyp?" And I said, "I can see something, I'm not sure what you call it." He goes, "Okay, fair enough." And he tried to explain it. Of course, every time he moved the scope, I lost the view. He thought I was seeing it, I just agreed and said yes. He then turned around and said to me, "What are you doing here? Why did you choose this profession?" And if there's ever a time in my life I did not know how to answer a question, that was then. The patient's butt was right there. There was a colonoscope disappearing up someone's rectum. I was meant to have identified a polyp, and I was photographing a beautiful bride yesterday, and I just really got very, very lost. But what I wanted to share with you from a branding perspective is one of the areas that didn't go so well. And that is that I had the privilege of being part of this global executive team of an Israeli company. Back in 1998 and 2000, we developed the world's first video camera in a pill that you swallow. I actually have one here and I'm going to pass it around, but I will warn you, if you swallow it, I will get it back. Pass it around. You guys are on for a challenge. You've got 9.5 minutes to look at it, smile at it. It's taking photographs, 2 pictures a second, transmitting them wirelessly to a wearable recorder, and yes, you will all be photographed as it goes through. Whoever's sitting up there on the back corner, whoever ends up getting it last, please hold on to it safely and come and see me afterwards. So this capsule that you will soon see has a miniaturized camera. It's literally an iPhone, except doesn't make phone calls. You swallow it, light sources, transmitters, and applied specific integrated circuit, and it does all these wonderful things. And the question would be is, why would we do this? And it was because we were able to examine, and for many, many years, we've been able to examine the gastrointestinal tract, be it the colon, the large bowel, or the upper GI tract. And we actually, for many years, thought we saw a decent part of the small intestine. There's some 7 metres of the bit in between. We didn't realise that, in fact, we didn't really see everything. And there aren't really very successful ways to be able to examine the entire small bowel. So we were in this catch-22 situation where evidence didn't necessarily predict or suggest there was disease that you would actually develop a technology for. Anyway, we went through the process. We're going to cut a long story short. We developed this technology. These are some of the images that you could take from it. Pretty amazing when you consider that there is no control of this capsule. It's just simply passing through the GI tract as it naturally would. It's based on the design principle of a submarine, so it's designed to float this way when it's in fluid so that we can get good angles of views. And we launched it to the world with a name called the M2A capsule. Does anyone want to guess what M2A might actually mean? You're in media, you'd have to get it. So here's the deal. The gastroenterologist is working up a patient. They've got symptoms and they do a series of blood tests, and they might end up doing some endoscopies. They've done an upper GI endoscopy and that's normal, nothing found. They then go and do a colonoscopy and that's normal too, nothing found. So then the patient comes back, gets the results, sits in front of the doctor, and the doctor turns around and says, "I'm sorry, Mrs. Smith. We've just done an upper endoscopy and we've just done a lower endoscopy and we couldn't find anything. Now we have to give you a mouth-to-anus endoscopy." The branding didn't work. Believe me, after launching this product in 2000, we got regs approval in 2001, we went to sale in 2001, and we started distributing this product all over the world, and guess what? Our brand was wrong. How crazy was that? One thing we didn't do, Tim, is we forgot to ask all of our customers. We actually just assumed that people would just love the brand as they would love the technology. Doctors would swarm it, patients would demand it, and the world would be one happy place. Guess what? That didn't turn out to be the reality. So we had to change our brand midstream. All of our regulatory certifications, all of our brochures, training materials, information, websites, instructions for use, IFUs, FAQs, everything that was printed that had everything related to M2A, then had to be changed again to our new brand, which we called PillCam. Funnily enough. Come on, guys. This is what we called it in Australia when I introduced it back in 2000. You would have thought, right? Go Aussies. Anyway, it took the rest of the world a little bit longer. But in any case, that was a real challenge, and it cost us in the high several hundreds of thousands of dollars to change our branding. Just think about that. We were still a very early stage company. We weren't a startup because we sort of were, but we'd started revenues and we were growing slowly and so forth. In fact, we ended up being the first company in the United States to list an IPO on the NASDAQ post-September 11. But I need about 4 hours to share that story with you. But in that context, we started this company in 1998, privately owned, and we listed it on the NASDAQ October 4, 2001. And within 8 hours of that day, we went from being a privately owned startup, if you will, to a $380 million publicly listed company just in one day. 14 years later, we were acquired by Covidien, who were the fourth largest medical device company at the time, for just under $1 billion. 5 months later, they were acquired by Medtronic for some $43 billion. Again, these are zeros and numbers that even I don't understand, Julie, so I get it. So there's an example technically as to what you probably need to think about in the context of branding. But what I really wanted to share with you is another element of branding, and that's about you. You as a person, you as a human being, you as someone in society, someone in industry. And when you build your business, when you're building your technologies, your science, you're going about your day, it's very, very easy to forget about what the rest of the world is doing and so forth. So I just wanted to share with you, by example, if I may, some ideas of what you could think about in the context of your personal branding. I'm not going to give you a social media lecture. I'm not very good at that. But I will talk about some of the other areas that I get involved in, and I know a lot of you in this room could possibly do something similar. Is that okay with you guys? Thank you. So let's just talk about this from this perspective. One of the things is that you are within an ecosystem. You're within an industry. Many of you I can see, I know, have done presentations, received awards and so forth. What you can give back to your industry is something really exciting. Each and every one of you has a journey. You've learned something. You're working on something. You bring an expertise to an audience. And I highly encourage that you get engaged in the industry around you, whether it be your clients or whether it be your colleagues or even your competitors. This group is the ANZ Gastrointestinal International Training Association. These were my customers for some 25 years. Now I'm sitting on a board helping them be an effective board, govern, strategize, and take first world medicine out of Australia into third world countries throughout the Pacific and have doctors and nurses teach gastroenterology. What a real privilege it is for me to be able to give back to the very people who supported me for many, many years. The same thing with Genka. I'm a strategic advisor to their board of directors of a nurse association. Who would have thought? Over 1,000 gastroenterological nurses. These ladies used to be my prodigal mother, my auntie. These were the nurse unit managers within the departments that I was selling, demonstrating, educating to, and guess what? I'm now actually giving back. So it's an awesome opportunity for me, and I think when you think about your customers, think about them slightly differently. In a sense of volunteering and giving back to the community, I'm very, very committed, and I'm passionate about that because I think there's a very selfish part of it, and that is that it makes you feel good. But on top of that, it also really makes someone else feel good. Every month I go into Glebe with a group of friends, turn a backyard blitz into something that's pretty amazing. For people who live in housing commission facilities, mentally ill, aged, demented, lonely people who just don't have the ability to even spend time to go out in their backyard. And this is what we do 2-3 hours, and we have a fantastic time. Tonight, in fact, straight after this, I'm heading over as an ambassador to the White Bay passenger terminal. You'll hopefully see a lot of this on the media in the next 24 hours as we're hosting 1,500 CEOs around Australia to sleep in 20 locations to raise awareness and funds for the homeless in Australia. We have over 116,000 homeless people in this country, and they're the ones we know. We expect it at least to be 2 to 3 times that amount. It's a disastrous situation, and I highly encourage you to do something. I would not suggest sleeping with the Prime Minister as a way of getting successful in your career, but do whatever you have to. We took this to South Africa, second year running. I just want to share what an incredible privilege it was to sleep on the Nelson Mandela Bridge. with 1,000 other people. And in the second year of the CEO Sleep Out going global in South Africa, it became the largest philanthropic project in all of Africa. Absolutely a mind-blowing experience. Bikes for life, recycling bikes, putting them in, rebuilding them. I shared this experience with my gorgeous daughter Sienna, and we packed that 40-foot container and we shipped them over to Ghana and third world countries, and we give bikes to kids and we encourage them to go to school. Extraordinary phenomenon. For building schools, community centres and birthing clinics in some of the worst areas of the Philippines that are forgotten by government and not funded, to schools that got flooded and needed some supplies, and we spent a whole day helping out with that. In regards to some of the other things you can do, invest in your leaders, your students, universities, whether that be lecturing, keynoting, or advising. As I said, you all have experience somewhere, and I'm sure it's going to be of value to a variety of people. This to me is a great fun thing to do, but more importantly, I love motivating, inspiring an audience, and I love seeing some of these kids who then volunteer on some of the things that I do later, which is really, really just incredible to see through their experience of what they can do. Don't forget to have fun. Try and learn a helicopter if you haven't done it. It's an experience. I've decided not to do it. It's not a good lifelong story for me, but geez, it was fun. I didn't know I knew that I enjoyed skydiving until I was given a charity opportunity, and that was my challenge: raise some money, jump out of an aeroplane. Makes perfect sense. Anyway, one episode, we raised about $35,000 just in that one event to end human slavery and the sex trade. So that all went to a good cause for sufferers within that. And, you know, if you haven't done it and you want to try something different, learn how to kite surf. It's a great way to get outdoors. What really matters, when you go home tonight, don't just walk home, sit on your phones, or someone says, how was your day, or whatever, listen to this bloke talk about all this boring stuff. Give someone a hug. Pick up the phone to ring your parents. Do something special, because we're only here for a short period of time, and seriously, you can't guarantee how long that's going to be. My father turned 94 2 days ago in Melbourne, and I had the biggest pleasure of being able to share that time with him over lunch. I became an uncle this morning, and you just never know. All these things happen because of whatever. Thank you. So it really is important to understand and to think about it outside the square. Don't get so totally swollen up within your world of your technology, your business and so forth, and forgetting about the real things that do matter. You will always have challenges in business, but really, these are the things in life that do matter. Finally, find your passion. You're going to find things, particularly those who are developing technologies and learning and commercializing. I've got about 2 more minutes, Julie, then I'll be finished. Thank you. Find something you're passionate about. If you see that you're not really enjoying something you're doing, then ask yourself why. Really give yourself a challenge. And if you can't figure it out, go and ask someone close to you. I'm sure they'll tell you much more quickly than you could probably work it out. The reason being is that you've got a better chance of being 150% of something if you love what you do versus if you don't have a passion for what you do. If you can't sort that out, then get out of that and do something that you are passionate about. The world needs more passionate people doing good things. All right? Okay. Lead with diversity and inclusion. This is a whole lecture in itself, but we are sitting in a room of diverse and people, skills, backgrounds, qualifications, races, and so forth. No one has a right to be overpowering over anybody else. So enjoy life, be nice to someone, and just see what the world prevails, because it's an incredible journey. Be gracious and be thankful for what you have. And I have a whole series of examples as to why I am, but I won't share that because Julie's going to kick me off stage. When you're building your companies, build them with the right values. Build them with the true understanding as to why you're doing this project, you're working on this technology, why your company exists. Ask the question why. Don't just ask how much. Don't ask what your budget is. Don't just ask how many do we sell. Ask the question why. One of the beautiful things about being in this industry, in the health sector, is that we can all come to work knowing that we're doing something positive to either saving or enhancing human health. That's what I do every day of my life with my business, and I just think it's a real privilege. Life is 10% of what happens to you and 90% of how you react to it. If Nick Vujicic can do what he's done for his life, born with no limbs, then I've got no excuse to complain about anything. Remember, those around you are not necessarily as well off or as privileged or has the same opportunities, so try and do something that's about caring for others. Celebrate the success along the way. Celebrate the fact that you did 4 presentations today and they were all very impressive presentations. One of you will win, but 3 of you, the rest of you, can still be celebrating the fact that you got here to this point, and you should be very, very proud of that. Thank you very much.